How are you, boys?
Holy shit. That's a bright shirt.
Thank you.
Jeez.
Should I go change? Do you want me to go change it? I will. Does it look just ridiculous?
Whoa, yeah, no. It looks so weird.
You're glowing right now.
Yeah.
It's all the
Yeah. Go with like a darker color. It's slimming. At least that's the rule I go by in life.
I think the color of this is nuclear.
Nuclear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's nuking my eyeballs. That's for sure.
That's not appropriate for polite
My balls.
society.
Fuck you doing? I made my font bigger on my thing.
It still looks terrible, doesn't it?
It's
like it looks glowing. I'm sorry.
Yes, that's exactly what it looks like. Glowing. Yeah. I know you're probably wearing your. I'll save it.
Boy, he's just determined to wear that fucking shirt.
Yeah.
Don't change the shirt.
This needs to be in here. You must have it. I have You're Killing Me Smalls going on here.
Who's Smalls?
Sure. You're Killing Me Smalls. It's from the movie The Sand. Fuck, this is recording.
Yeah, it is. Welcome, everybody, to the Stone Down Sports Podcast. My name is Matt. As always, I am joined by these two fellas here, Kyle and Ramey. We have a great show on tap for you today. Lots of things to get into. But first, let's see what's up with Ramey. How's it going, brother?
It's going well. It's been a good week so far. Got some NBA to talk about. A lot of things going on, and we're going to do our division preview of the not so exciting AFC South. So I think we've got some good information to talk about, and obviously it's near and dear to my heart, being the division the Indianapolis Colts are in, and going to do our regular pick sixer and our back in the day replay. But I think it's going to be a fun discussion, guys. What do you think, Kyle?
Yeah, I mean, I think Jacksonville ultimately is going to take that division handedly. What's so funny? All right.
I was just asking how you were.
Oh, yeah. I didn't hear that.
Who you got? Who you got in the South, Kyle?
Great. Great. Good. Great. Grand.
Oh, man.
All right.
Spoiler alert. Kyle likes the Jaguars. The Jaguars.
Okay. Say your question again, I guess, because I just hear what I want to. So
how are you, Kyle?
I am good. Very excited actually to come down there to Indianapolis next week and hang out with you fellas for a minute.
Oh, yeah. I had no idea.
Oh, well, get the guest bedroom ready because I'm coming down.
Watch out, ladies of India.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. If you live in the northern Indianapolis Carmel area, watch out.
Yeah.
I'll just be the guy at Market District or a restaurant shoveling food in my face. So I'll be easily recognizable.
So you'll be the person at a restaurant eating, and that's your identification.
Probably you're going to notice it's me because I'll be eating like vigorously.
Yeah. And if you
over fist and
if you ask him a question, he won't be able to answer it.
No,
so
it'll be the totally opposite response of what would have been appropriate.
Hey, I think it's Kyle from that podcast. How's it going, Kyle? Jaguars. I like the Jaguars.
Yeah. I like the Jags in the AFC South, but no, I'm doing good. Do we want to start with the Jaguars or
we can? I mean,
or do you? At what point in this segment would you like to get bashed about the Colts by Matt and I?
Oh, I mean, I could take it anytime. I think
that's what she said.
Oh, there he goes.
There he goes.
Warming up. Oh, yeah. Let's talk about Jacksonville. I mean, they won the division last year. Finished the season with 5 straight wins to overtake the Titans and win the division in the last week of the season. So even had a nice come from behind playoff win at home against the Chargers, which was kind of shocking. I think it was what?
Yeah, they were down 27-0.
Yeah.
Came back and won.
Yeah. it was crazy. So Trevor Lawrence took a big step forward with Doug Peterson taking the helm as head coach last year. It's amazing what can happen when you have a legitimate NFL head coach in place running your operation out instead of putting all your hopes and dreams on a fellow from your guys' favorite school, the Ohio State University.
Yeah, no, the Jags are going to be tough.
Yeah,
Trevor Lawrence should look more comfortable in this offense. Second year with Doug Peterson. Like I said, I was asking before, he essentially had 2 rookie seasons with the Urban Meyer disaster, who I hate Urban Meyer so much. He is one of my most hated coaches for sure.
Ooh,
Matt, what
that's
do you
a little foreshadowing.
What do you think about the
2 rookie seasons?
Jaguars?
Is that like being a born again virgin?
Matt, what do you think about the Jags this year?
What is happening?
I don't know. I hit something. I don't know, but I don't know what's going on. Matt, what do you think about the Jags this year?
Long story short, I would be floored if they did not win the division. Long story, a little bit longer. They were smart in the draft. They spent 8 of their picks on defense. They brought in Tank Bigsby to complement Etienne. Etienne's at his best when he's catching the ball out of the backfield. Overall, the skill positions there, they look really good. Ramey, like you said, Trevor Lawrence is improving. Etienne, they brought in Calvin Ridley to pair up with Christian Kirk and Evan Ingram there at tight end. That's easily a top 10 skill position group in the NFL. They are playing a first place schedule this year, so it's going to be a little bit more difficult for them than it has been in some years past. Interestingly enough, I did see DraftKings has their win total at 9.5, and just based on the steaming pile of hot garbage this division is, I'm going to take the over on that.
Same. I would too. Sorry, Ramey. I would too. Their non-division opponents this year are kind of tough.
Yeah, they play the AFC North and the NFC South. So
they have but the tough games are at home. Chargers, Bengals, Ravens is technically in London, but it's a home game, and Seattle at home. Their tough non-division game is Miami on the road. They have the 5th easiest schedule. Versus win percentage for 2022, which I know.
Yeah,
I know Matt doesn't like that. You don't agree with it. Teams change, and I get it.
I mean, I it's not that I don't agree with it. It's more that I think that is something that should be taken as a grain of salt and not necessarily the gospel, just because teams change so much season over season.
Yeah. I was going to say earlier, do you think it's fair to say that the Jaguars are taking a gamble on Calvin Ridley?
That's a high quality pun.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. It is. He hasn't played a game since October of 21. So they're going to, I think I was reading some stuff today. They're just kind of easing him in, and I think that's smart. So
I think he could look, by the end of the year, it could look like a really smart pickup. He had a fantastic year the year before he was suspended with Atlanta, and that was with my former quarterback, Matt Ryan, back when he knew how to, play the quarterback position. So I think you're right on track, Matt. Their skill position group looks to be top 10, top 8 in the NFL with Trevor Lawrence continuing to develop. I think they will be the leader in the clubhouse at the end of the season.
Again, like I said, it's kind of by default, just because none of the other 3 teams in the division are in a position to actually compete.
Yeah, all 3 of them drafted QBs in the first or second round. So
yeah,
the competition, they're going to sweep. The Jags are going to sweep. They're going to win all those division games. I'm calling it.
It's kind of like when you're at the bar and the lights go on at the end of the night. You're trying to find a girl, and you just are slim pickings at that point. That's kind of what this division is.
Yeah. Well, you need to be kind of conscious and awake while you're trying to pick that girl, instead of slouched over the bar like Ramey probably is.
You'd be surprised what you can get slouched over the edge of a bar.
So
Seems like real slim pickings.
The other top teams in the AFC, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Bengals, where do you rank Jacksonville out of that group? Do you think they're fourth?
Yeah, I think they're easily fourth, and they're probably behind a couple of teams that aren't going to win their division. Teams like the Dolphins, potentially the Chargers. I know the Chargers collapsed at Jacksonville in the playoffs, but I think overall they were a better team last year. It'll be really interesting to see how their draft picks on defense kind of fit in with the scheme that Doug Peterson and his staff have. It's going to come down to defense. They're going to be able to score points with anybody, but can they stop anybody? But I think to your point, Matt, yeah, they're of the four potential division winners, they're clearly the weakest.
Yeah, this sounds like a scenario to me where just because you're the best looking waitress at Denny's doesn't mean you're hot. Yeah, they're going to win the division, but is anybody really looking to take them home that night? We'll see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Gross. Denny's is gross. The food's gross. Not a fan. I was, in my 20s or something. It's the only thing open at 3:30 in the morning. But disgusting. Moving along, the Tennessee Titans, 7-10 last year, lost their last 7 games of the year. My big question on this team is, who the fuck are they going to throw the ball to? I mean, they have Traylon Burks right now is going to be their number 1 wide receiver. I know D-Hop is meeting with them this week or today even maybe. So we'll see. They need some help there, but they only have about $8 million left in cap space. So he's going to have to take a deal. And if he can take less at Tennessee, why don't you just go take less in Kansas City or Buffalo?
Yeah,
Ramey?
I agree with you. The big thing for me is Ryan Tannehill was hurt last year. They lost 7 straight. They collapsed down the stretch at the end of the year to allow the Jacksonville Jaguars to win that division.
Fair enough. I mean, they had Malik Willis and Dobbs there in the last couple of games.
That's true.
I mean, so
still they collapsed. I mean,
sure.
So you start the season with you assume with Ryan Tannehill. I guess the question I have is, do they ride Tannehill for as long as the season's going well? At what point does Will Levis come in? Or because they were able to grab him in the second round, do they plan to basically run it back this year with a limited offensive weaponry and have Levis sit on the bench and watch and plan on him being the starter in 2024? So Derrick Henry, another great season last year, 1,538 rushing yards, was 100% as a passer, 2 for 2.
Right.
I know he's been injured, but it's been pretty amazing that he hasn't been seriously injured recently. When's he going to break down after the workload that he's been through over the last 3 or 4 years? And if he breaks down, then I think all bets are off.
Yeah, he's the key to the offense there. Tannehill is not a game winner. He can manage the game and possibly not lose you the game, but Henry's the key on that offense for sure.
Yeah, I could really see them bringing in Levis like maybe around week 6 or week 7. The beginning part of their schedule is pretty rough with games against the Chargers, the Browns, the Bengals, and the Ravens all in the first 5 or 6 weeks. I do think they are fortunate that they have the best coach in the division, and their run defense, at least last year, was pretty damn good. And their defense overall should help to keep them in games, but they just don't have the firepower on the offensive end to keep up with some teams like Jacksonville or the Bengals. So the rebuild that needs to happen there could be starting as soon as this year. Burks seems like a decent piece. He was towards the top of the NFL in yards after catch last year at 4.88. They've got a win total of 7.5, and I am confidently taking the under on that this year. I think Will Levis will be in sooner rather than later, and he does give some athleticism upside, something that Tannehill doesn't offer. But I don't think he's ready to start in the NFL at this point, and I don't think the Titans believe that either, and that's why he was a second-round pick.
Well, I guess I do agree with you. I don't think they're going to be as good even this coming year as they were last year. But the only question I would have is if it does go down the tubes and you have a limited offensive skill set, do you put a rookie quarterback in under those conditions? Are you setting him up to fail, or do you ride out the season with him just kind of sitting on the bench and learning? And maybe you're selective with where you play him, and you keep Tannehill as long as he's healthy as your starter, and you let Levis develop, and then you go next year and maybe you look for some wide receivers in free agency or in the draft. There's going to be a lot of good wide receivers in the draft, especially if the Titans end up in the top 10 with the record.
Yeah, they had a good one in A.J. Brown, but they just didn't want to pay him. And so Traylon Burks became the pick that they got for him, and it's not really working out like I'm sure it was intended to.
No, but again, your quarterback's Tannehill, your quarterback's Josh Dobbs, your quarterback's Malik Willis. I mean, those top three wide receivers, what was it? Burks, Akine, and Kyle Phillips, I think is their three wide receivers last year.
All right. Anytime you're starting a wide receiver named Kyle, you know you're in trouble.
Yeah, you know you're not good, but they combined for 68 and 900 yards and 4 touchdowns. So they're not going. If they don't improve at the wide receiver, then I don't bring Will Levis in at all, because you are going to set him up to fail, in my opinion. But nobody to throw the ball to.
Yeah. They did draft Peter Skoronski from Northwestern with their first pick, so they're hopefully shoring up the offensive line a little bit. It does just seem like they're kind of going to run back what they did last year with a run heavy offense and rely on that defense, like you said, Matt.
And go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, I mean, they don't have to put it all on Henry. They've got Hassan Haskins. They did bring in Tajay Sharp, so they don't need to give Henry 350 touches. Instead, maybe ask for 250 good rushes out of him this year and let the other two help carry that burden.
Yeah, Haskins didn't have enough touches, but I think he had a little bit of a fumble problem, if I remember there for a second. So they just kind of they lost trust in him. But so last year, Henry's deal, last year of Tannehill's deal, I think the Tennessee Titans know they're not going to compete for the division this year, and they're just going to ride this out and start Levis next year. Hopefully, with a Marvin Harrison type guy or something.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how quickly the bottom comes for this team.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to jump on the under, same as you on that. I know we're not going to hit that.
Speaking of teams on the bottom,
hey, we still got two more teams. Okay. We're saving the best for last, are we?
Yeah, let's. I know you're getting excited, but don't get your panties in a bunch there.
I'll try.
The Texans. Oh, Jesus. Let's see. 3-13 last year. They were 3-2-1 in their division games last year. But they were also 0-7-1 at home last year. A new coaching regime. Lovie Smith out. D'Amico Ryan's in, former 49ers defense coordinator. Former player there for Houston as well. I think he's going to change the culture there, similar to Dan Campbell and the Lions. I think he brings that same type of energy. The big addition for them that I like is Robert Woods. I liked him. I had him on my fantasy team a couple of years ago, and he got me a ton of points. But so I like him. I think he's going to be a good safety blanket for C.J. Stroud. And he's a hell of a blocker, too, from what I remember at the Rams, at least in those schemes. So, and I believe the Texans OC run some similar offense to McVay's. So it'll be interesting to see how he does on that offense.
Yeah. I think the big story for the Texans this year is their gamble in the draft going to pan out, or is it going to be something that blows up in their face? They drafted C.J. Stroud second overall, which makes a lot of sense because they did need a quarterback. They also needed an edge rusher, so they went ahead and traded almost all of the draft capital that they had gained by trading Deshaun Watson, along with their first round pick next year, to move back into the first round up to third with Arizona, and they drafted Will Anderson Jr. They're going to either look like geniuses if it pans out if it doesn't, and they're sitting there with the first or second pick next year that they have to trade away, where they could potentially draft someone like Drake May or Caleb Williams, they may be going through another shuffle in the front office. So I think it comes down to that.
I think Will Anderson will 100% definitely work out. CJ Stroud, we'll see. It's a lot easier for, I mean, somebody Will Anderson's, his portfolio, so to speak. He's going to come in and make an immediate impact. And CJ Stroud's going to take a minute. It's not going to be anything quick. I think he's a smart kid. He's from Ohio State, so I don't like him in that respect. But Matt, how do you feel about the Texans?
Personally, I like the move of getting back to 3 and taking Will Anderson. He was a fantastic player at Alabama and somebody with an incredibly high floor. They actually drafted 2 edges in this draft. They took 2 wide receivers along with CJ Stroud. And they've actually got when you think about it, a halfway decent QB room with CJ Stroud, Case Keenum, and Davis Mills. They brought in Dalton Schultz as well to go along with that offense. Their offensive line, they've got 2 great tackles, Laramie Tunsil and Titus Howard. But the rest of their line is not necessarily all that great. We'll see how that works out. It seems like they found themselves a nice little running back with Damian Pierce last year. So there's, some things to be excited about it with the team. D'Amico Ryans is their 5th head coach in the last 4 years, and their win total is set at 6.5. I will confidently take the under on that as well.
I'm with you there.
Agree. Under for sure. And they didn't really do anything to shore up their inner defensive line, the interior defensive line. They got Sheldon Rankins from the Jets, but they were the worst team in rushing yards last year, giving up. So at 170 a game, I sure hope Derrick Henry doesn't go there again and run all over him.
It wouldn't.
Got to change though with D'Amico Ryans being there. I think it'll be a lot different. No knock on Lovie Smith, but I think going to be a lot different.
I actually think Lovie did a pretty good job for the hand he was dealt last year. I mean, you knew they were in tank mode and they were looking to get a high draft pick to draft a quarterback. They played hard for Lovie. That last game against the Colts. I mean, they screwed themselves out of the first pick in the draft. So by beating the Colts at the end, it was a thrilling, meaningless game. But they also picked up Devin Singletary to kind of give some depth to that running back class or room, I would say.
So
I just think they're focused on the long term. I agree with you. The win total is going to be under 6.5. It's not going to be close to 6.5. I just hope that their moves. Actually, I don't hope their moves work out. I hope they suck.
Depending on who the third string running back, depending on how the third string running back might be there, I'd pick him up in fantasy because what is it? Damian Pierce and Singletary, they're hurt pretty frequently.
Yeah. And then they've got Agumbawale as well.
Yeah. Matt mentioned Dalton Schultz earlier. The best receiver on that team is probably Nico Collins.
Yeah.
He's the most athletic. He's certainly the most athletic, physical.
Isn't John Michie coming off an injury?
And yeah, we'll see what happens with him. What's that?
He had cancer.
Oh, yeah.
John Mechie.
Okay.
Mechie. I apologize to the Mechie family for calling him John Michie.
But
Michie.
Yeah, Nico's somebody I'm thinking about for, flex value this year.
Michie.
Depending on who.
Does that sound familiar? Michie. Where do I know that from?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Sounds like an inside joke that Andrew doesn't know about.
A long time ago when I was a kid, my folks had a babysitter / housekeeper, a older Japanese woman, and her name was Mitsuko, but her nickname was Michi. And Matt and the guys, always thought that I had a thing for Michi, which I did not, because she was, like I said, an old Japanese woman. Not that there's anything wrong with that. I was a minor. So,
Older
we
the
go.
berry, the sweeter the juice.
Yeah, I don't know about that, but she made some amazing food, man. True. Homemade fried rice, it was always the best. I've always tried to make it like hers. Like it never tastes like hers.
It's like a fine wine.
Um,
Just gets better with age.
so
Well, in his
yes.
formative years.
Moving along, we have left the Indianapolis Colts. One of our co-hosts here is a huge fan of the Indianapolis Colts. 4-12 last year. They lost their last 7 games, I believe. Won 4-1 in division games. I don't think they had a very good offseason. Not at all. They did pick up Anthony Richardson. Is he going to be somebody that's an impact this year? Absolutely not. I don't see it. I say start Minshew and let that guy learn and let him start next year. But they won't. Irsay will get impatient, and they'll throw him out there to the wolves, and he'll have a bad experience. Ramey?
Gosh, Kyle, I didn't know you could tell the future.
I can.
Nice.
At least when it comes to the Colts.
They are going to.
This is like just all my opinion, man.
Yeah, they aren't going to be very good this year.
Oh shit!
I think yeah. That is my expert analysis. Thanks.
All right.
Have a good,
Next, man.
have a good evening. See you next week. So, I'm excited about Shane Steichen. I think he's a really good offensive mind, and if you're going to have him in the room, you're going to get his input on who to draft at quarterback. They desperately needed to draft a quarterback rather than going back to the well and trying to find a free agent. Basically, has been retread like they've been doing the last 2 or 3 years with. First, Phillip Rivers, which actually worked out kind of well. They made it to the playoffs and almost beat the Bills in the playoffs. But then they went to Carson Wentz and Matt Ryan, who I don't know what happened. I know the team wasn't very good, but he was just he looked washed up, and now he's going to be sitting behind a desk on CBS. So,
how about Okereke? They lost on them, not re-signing him. He had 151 tackles last year.
Yeah,
or somewhere close to that. So
yeah, he had a really good year. I'm disappointed that they didn't sign him, but I think with Zaire Franklin stepping in and actually breaking the single season record for tackles in the season with the Colts, I think he'll be good. Hopefully you have Shaquille Leonard coming back, but the last I've heard, he's still not ready. You're hoping that they're just being very conservative, but with nerve issues, you never know. Hopefully it's not one of those where he just kind of lingers around and isn't the player that he once was, because he's a turnover machine and he's a game changer on defense. So I think Chris Ballard, it comes down to he knows that he couldn't keep what he was doing and being a mediocre team. And if he did for whatever, maybe another 1 or 2 years, he would get fired. So I think he saw Anthony Richardson as somebody who could change the game for the Colts. I think he could be a Jalen Hurts type. I don't know if he could be as good of a passer as Jalen Hurts. He's certainly not as good of a passer in college or right now, but I think he knows that there's a lot of potential there. And if you're going to get fired for being mediocre, you might as well swing for the fences and hope it turns out well, because if he's a bust, he's going to be fired anyway. So you hope that they bring back a healthy Jonathan Taylor and they supplement those receivers, Alec Pierce and Michael Pittman Jr. with Josh Downs in the draft. They also picked up Isaiah McKenzie and Brashard Perryman. I know he is basically been a no-show in whatever team he's on, but you hope that he comes in and he wants to prove something, and you have a surprising season where you maybe get 6 or 7 wins and you have a positive momentum moving forward.
Yeah. Speaking of turnovers, last year, their turnover differential was -13, worst in the NFL. So they should be due for some positive regression there. Interesting to me, they spent 25% of their cap on their offensive line, which is 6th most in the NFL, and the returns on that investment are not exactly great. When you're paying a shit ton of money to Quentin Nelson at guard, it can hamstring you, and look where we're at there with a quarter of their cap. They did draft 3 tackles this past year, pretty late. Pittman and JT are going to be free agents after this season, so this could be a make or break year for them from the standpoint of, do they want to come back? Everyone talks about re-signing them. It's a two-way street. You can try, but if they don't want to be here because they can't see a future with a possibility to win, then who knows? JT, I think he's going to bounce back this year. Last season, even though, he had all the injuries, he was still breaking tackles at nearly a 20% clip. Their win total is at 6.5. For me, I think 6 is the right number, so I will take the under on that, but I'm not saying that with a whole lot of conviction either.
Yeah, I know that. I think we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. It's one of those where if everything goes right and JT comes back fully healthy, Minshew / Richardson are able to have some kind of dynamic offense. I think they could get as high as maybe 8 wins. But I think if things go the way they look to be going, I think we're looking at like a 4 or 5 win team. Michael Pittman Jr., like you said, this is something I wanted to touch on. Pittman and Jonathan Taylor are both free agents because they were second round picks, so their rookie contracts are up after this year. I struggle with Michael Pittman and what you do there because he's going to want to be paid like a number one because he is the default number one on the Colts. He is not a number one receiver. He's a good number 2, I think, on a good team. Maybe it's a product of the quarterbacks and the situation that the Colts have been in the last couple of years, but I just don't see him as a guy that's going to be able to go out and get you 1,500 yards. Last year he had 925 receiving yards and only 4 touchdowns. The quarterback room was trash last year, so I will give him that. Jonathan Taylor, you don't pay running backs, so I'll be interested to see what Ballard and the Colts do with extensions. I could see them maybe franchising Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, that'll cost like $10 million.
Yeah, but then you're off the hook. So the flip side of that is Richardson's going to be on a rookie deal for 5 years. So now's the time to spend if you're going to spend, but you got to spend wisely. That's typically, I know it's not been every year, but teams like the Rams and others have capitalized on rookie quarterback deals by making trades and free agent signings to supplement the roster. So
what was being careful with money? Like, what about the Matt Gay signing? That's the one I'm worried. That's the one I didn't understand. You know, he was given the largest free agent kicker contract.
I did.
Why do you think they didn't just stay with Chase McLaughlin, who was actually pretty good last year for you guys after Rodrigo got cut?
He did. I think they saw their red zone struggles last year and realized they need a kicker that's going to be accurate from 50 on the reg. They're going to be an offense that may be able to move the ball, but I don't know what they're going to look like in the red zone. I think if they get to the goal line, I think it'll be really fun to see what Steichen comes up with Richardson and Taylor. Do you just basically line up and run like a wing T or something like that? Like, do you get creative and really try to punch the ball in and maybe change the game a little bit on the goal line? But to your point, Kyle, and I digress again, I tend to do that. I think they just wanted a kicker that they know is going to be solid, and they went out and paid money for it.
It's interesting that that's where they chose to put their money. That's all I'm saying. Especially when Ngakoue is still out there and they're letting him walk. Of course, he's not signed yet, but he was good for them the last couple of years or last year as well.
If I'm a Colts fan, I'm very disappointed. They didn't do more to try and improve the offensive line. They drafted 3 tackles, but I think like one was a 6th rounder and one was a 7th rounder. You're not really expecting much out of them.
I agree with that. And I think it'll be interesting to see what they do in the next couple of years to build around Richardson. I think the offensive line, I'll give you that they have underperformed based on the amount of money that they made. And I don't agree that you don't pay a right or a left guard $20 million a season. I think having Richardson and Minshew more mobile quarterbacks, I think that line will look better this year than it did in the last couple of years. Particularly last year with Ryan, he was just a statue back there. Like he could not move to save his life, and I think the line suffered because of that. With a healthy Taylor and a more mobile quarterback, I think that will help the line a little bit.
So
I do think their defensive line is still pretty sharp with DeForest is still there, and Kwity Paye was pretty good for you guys last year as well. So I think that they look good there.
Their edge rush needs to take a step up. Kwity Paye and others, that somebody needs to be a dominant force on the edge, because that's the NFL today. They can get the push up the middle, and their linebacking core is good, but especially with the recent gambling issues with Isaiah Rodgers, that defensive secondary is going to be thin. I'm guessing they wish they had not traded Stephon Gilmore to the Cowboys at this point, but they're going to have to get a rush, or they're just going to get eaten alive, and they're going to lose a lot of games by a lot of points.
Kenny Moore is going to be a free agent after next season too.
Yeah.
So I'm curious. I'll set the over under at 55% for Richardson's completion percentage. Where do you go?
Personally, I'm going to say 0 because I don't think he's going to play this year.
I do. I think he'll play.
He'll play a lot. He'll end up playing way too much.
If he plays a lot, it's going to be under 55%. If they're able to manage the situations when they put him in, I could see him being like a 60% passer, because he's going to have to get the ball out quick. It's definitely going to be a development year. I think he needs to play. I hope they're smart about when and where they play him.
I think they're going to get impatient, and I think he is the starting quarterback before week 6.
They come out of the gate. Their schedule to come out of the gate isn't terrible. Those first 5 or 6 games will be telling. If they start Minshew and they have a decent record, I could see them keeping him in. But if things go sideways, yeah, I think they'll throw him in early. And I don't think his completion percentage will be above 55%. I think he'll run a lot.
Oh yeah,
for his life.
Well, Kyle's going to go with Jacksonville, Tennessee, Houston, and the Colts finishing last. I'm sorry, Ramey.
There is no team that deserves to finish second in this division. But I
think the Titans will, just because of their experience and their coaching staff is pretty good. Houston, it's just Jacksonville's going to win.
I agree. I think Jacksonville's going to win it. I think Tennessee is the second best team in that division, or maybe the third least worst, if that's a thing. I think Houston will be third, and Indianapolis will be bringing up the rear in that division. I struggle as a fan because I want to see my team win, but I think they need one more year of having a top 10-ish draft class. Marvin Harrison Jr. is out there, and there's the nostalgia because his dad played for the Colts. They need a stud receiver, whether it's him or somebody else. They also need a left tackle. So knowing Ballard, if both are there, he'll probably go tackle. But they need another top pick to be able to supplement that roster. So I think Indy will win 4 or 5 games, but I also see Houston winning about that as well. So either one doesn't really matter because they're both going to be terrible.
Yeah, they're just, slightly less shitty than Tennessee.
Yeah.
If JT has a good year, if JT's having a good year this year, does he get traded? Even if it's last year or not?
No.
I don't think so, because
in-season trades at skill positions rarely happen because you've got a whole new offense, all new terminology to learn. I mean, it does happen. McCaffrey got traded in the middle of the year, but they also did that to move on from that contract.
Marquez.
He's such a good running back. They're going to ride with him. I hope that they figure out a way to compensate him that doesn't hamstring the Colts, NFL contracts are 2 years and then basically let's see. So I hope that they don't tie him up too long-term or too high of a dollar that's going to hurt them and being able to make some signings when they should be getting better.
Yeah, I mean, to me, the smart thing to do if they want to keep him around and he's asking for, $15 million a year, franchise him.
Yeah.
It's going to be, I think the franchise tag this year was around $10 million. It might go up a little bit next year. But even then, I mean, you can franchise him a second time and it'll be like, 12, 13 million. And that's still less than what he asked for. And you get 2 years out of it. Franchise tag rule is supposed to give teams and players an opportunity to work towards a long-term deal, but it's more of a fuck you. You're not going anywhere. You can play for us or for nobody at all.
Now it's time for the Stoned On Sports Podcast Pick Sixer, where we tell you 6 of our most hated athletes. Kyle, would you like to lead us off with this list of most hated athletes?
Absolutely. I talked about him a few weeks ago. Claude Lemieux, hate him. That hit on Chris Draper in the 1996 Western Conference Finals. Fucked up Draper's face and reconstructive surgery and all that. So I'd say he's definitely a Detroit sports villain. Nelson Cruz, dude, this guy's a Tiger killer. Every time the Detroit Tigers were in a playoff series, this guy would come up big. 2011 in LCS with the Rangers, that grand slam, just whatever. He's also a piece of shit too, and had a 50-game suspension for substance abuse. So I don't.
They just repeatedly pitched him up and in where he loves it.
Yep, Tiger killer. Number 3, Brett Favre. Hate him. He's in this welfare scam thing with the state of Mississippi.
Allegedly.
If you remember, he allegedly his infamous sex to a Jets team employee. And he's still the NFL all-time interception.
He was a real dick when he was with the Jets.
Yes. Yes. Good one. And yeah, fuck the Packers. Go Lions. Back to baseball. Pablo Sandoval, fat ass panda third baseman. I fucking can't stand him. That's it. That's all I'm going to talk about. He was just a great player in the 2012 World Series. Switching to basketball, Grayson Allen, guard from Duke, plays for the Bucks now. One of the dirtiest players in basketball history, in my opinion. He'd always try and trip people and hip check people, and I don't even think he should be playing basketball. Hate him. And somebody just like him that I also hate, Aaron Kraft, guard from the Ohio State Buckeyes basketball between 10 and 14.
Seems like he was there 50 years.
I know, he was there forever. He is now, his basketball skills were shit. He's now in third-year medical school. He's going to be a ear, nose, and throat doctor. And fuck Ohio State. Go blue. Ramey?
I'm shocked that you knew Aaron Kraft is going to be an ear, nose, and throat doctor. You must really hate him.
Yeah. Fuck him. I mean, he's going to make more money than me. I mean, whatever. But he's, I hated him when he was there. Hated him.
Do you think he's going to make more money than you, or do you think he already has made more money than you?
Going to.
Okay.
Going to.
All right. Because I think he played pro for over in Europe for a couple of years, and he played on the TBT, the tournament or whatever.
Oh, yeah. That's not real basketball.
Okay. All right. My top 6. I know I talked about this with you guys, and I'm not going to do it. I wanted to go Tom Brady. I'm kind of spoiler alert here. I wanted to go Tom Brady 6 times, but I did my homework and I've got my top 6. My number 6 is LeBron James, one of the greatest basketball players of all time, but just really fucking hated him both in Cleveland and in Miami when he kept my Pacers, who were probably the second best team in the league, from going to the NBA Finals a couple times back when they had Paul George and Danny Granger. Number 5, interestingly enough, Paul George. Really just a piece of shit.
Wow. Dude, I like him.
I mean, forced his way out of Indiana when they could have built around him for years to come as a legitimate superstar. They drafted him. They developed him. and he just turned his back on the franchise because he wanted to play in LA, which he ultimately got his wish. Quick stop in Oklahoma City. They were able to salvage that trade by getting Victor Oladipo and Domas Sabonis back in that deal, but still, it set the Pacers back a few years. So I just fucking hate him. Number 4, Albert Pujols, the machine. As a Cubs fan, just lit us up.
I could see why you would cry every time you heard his name.
It does make me happy that he chased the money and went to the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, or whatever the fuck they're called now, and it was a shell of his former self. But that's so typical Cardinals that they got rid of him and they just kept chugging along. But Albert Pujols really just beat the hell out of the Cubs.
Good
Every
for
time
him
we
played into his 50s.
Yeah. He actually had kind of a career resurgence the last couple of years, coming back and playing as a designated hitter and a first baseman for the Cardinals. Again, fuck him. My number 3, Purdue Boilermaker Brian Cardinal. Just epitomized Purdue hatred in the late 90s with his stupid knee pads and his receding hairline. Even made it into the pros and had a decent pro career, but he was just one of those guys that I'm sure if he were on your team, you love him, but if he's playing on your rival, you love to hate him. So he's my number 3. Number 2, going into football, Phillip Rivers, which is another ironic one. He was a guy outside of my number 1 that was a big thorn in the side of the Indianapolis Colts every year, it seemed, whenever the Colts had a 13-0 record going or a nice playoff run, the Chargers would come in and swiftly knock the Colts down a peg and then move on to only miss a heartbreaking kick by Nate Kading or whoever their kicker may be. But Phillip Rivers is just a total, just one of those guys you just wanted to punch in the face. So
we get it. You hate Phillip Rivers. Okay.
Ultimately ends up playing for the Colts and had a decent year, and then he fucking retired to go coach high school football. So he could have redeemed himself, but he got out a little early, probably smart. But that leads to my number 1, Tom Brady. Fuck Tom Brady. And I know you guys love him.
Live Tom Brady.
Jesus Christ. I mean, benefits from a great defensive coach and system, made a few good throws here and there, had the best clutch kicker of all time.
So you're saying as coach and defense and special teams won him Super Bowls is what you're saying.
And spying and deflating footballs.
The deflate thing was some bullshit, right? There's this thing called science.
Yeah. Right? Well, science is
the way they tested those footballs were not done following the scientific method.
I didn't read that article. I read the article where he cheated. Tom Brady's my number 1. Fuck him. Matt, what do you got?
All right. For my number 6, Cal Ripken Jr., shortstop, Baltimore Orioles. Growing up as a kid, it seemed like every year he would get the all-star nod over Alan Trammell, and that would just chap my ass. And then everyone filleted him over his Iron Man streak. But there's no way you can tell me that didn't hurt his team. Piss on Cal Ripken Jr. Number 5, Eli Manning. This goober somehow beats the Patriots twice in the Super Bowl. Each time there was a signature throw to either David Tyree or Mario Manningham. Either way, piss on that. Number 4, Dwayne fucking Wade. The 2006 Eastern Conference Finals, the NBA decided that, all right, he's a superstar now and can do no wrong. So he got every single call that series. Pistons got fisted. They should have won that. They would have beat Dallas. But instead, they got robbed. Number 3, Kyle, you mentioned him, Pablo Sandoval. 3 home runs in Game 1 of the 2012 World Series. 2 of them off JV, 1 of them off Albuquerque, all 3 of them. What the fuck? But, to his credit, he did pull off quite the robbery with that contract with the Boston Red Sox. Number 2, Andy Pettitte. this HGH popping son of a bitch, all they would ever talk about was, the eyes of Andy Pettitte as he peered over his glove. Fuck him. Fuck the Yankees. Just take your shots and go away. Number one, Peyton fucking Manning. This is a dude that makes Stephen A. Smith looks like he has a full head of hair. He is the most annoying person walking the fucking planet. You want to talk about Brady being carried? He didn't have 2 Hall of Fame receivers, a Hall of Fame running back, and an all-pro tight end to throw to all the goddamn time. Peyton Manning was great in the regular season until it mattered most, especially against the Patriots, where he shriveled like a limp dick. Peyton Manning, frig off. All right, folks, now it's time for our back in the day replay. Kyle, I bet you've got a good one. Ramey, why don't you get us started?
Yes. In the non-World War II department, this week in 1990, Nolan Ryan became the oldest player to throw a no-hitter. He actually beat his own record by throwing another no-hitter a year later, but this was his 6th of 7 no-hitters. Nolan Ryan was a man's man of a pitcher back in the day. Really just took no shit from anybody kind of guy. Amazingly didn't win any Cy Young awards, even though he ended his career leading and still leads in all-time strikeouts. So he ended his career with 7 no-hitters. Next best was Sandy Koufax with 4. One more fun fact, he actually had 12 one-hitters, which I think we're almost at 12 one-hitters.
And he bloodied Robin Ventura.
Yes, he sure did. Robin Ventura got what he got. Yeah, he definitely should have won a Cy Young. Definitely in 73 when Jim Palmer won it. Ryan's WAR was better. He threw more innings. He had over 150 more strikeouts than Nolan Ryan. He got snubbed.
You know who else never won a Cy Young? Cy Young.
Well, that seems like that's just not right.
No.
How does a man get a pitching award named after him and for best pitcher and never won best pitcher?
Kyle, what's your back?
Could there have been a Cy Young award while Cy Young was pitching? No, because they're not going to call it at that.
That, folks, is how a joke works.
I'm a little slow.
Kyle, what's your back in the replay this week?
Also, I went into the baseball realm. This week in 1979, the Tigers hired Sparky Anderson. He was already a 2-time World Series winning champion with the Reds in 75 and 76. He won the World Series in 84 with the Tigers and Manager of the Year in 84 and 87. He's one of 2 managers that have won World Series in both leagues. Do you guys know the other gentleman?
Tony La Russa?
That's correct. Tony La Russa with the Athletics and the Cardinals. Sparky Anderson's career wins at 2,194 are still 6th most for a manager in Major League history.
Nice. How many bombing runs did he participate in?
I don't know. I don't know.
Sparky Anderson never won a Cy Young.
No, he didn't.
Sparky Anderson looked about 50 years old when he was like 32 coaching with the Padres.
Yeah, well, that's what, 3 packs of non-filtered will do to you. Matt, how about your back in the day replay?
So I am going to step out of the sports universe here a little bit.
Yes. Bombing run?
No, close though. June 17th, 1972. Following a seemingly routine burglary, 5 men were arrested at the National Democratic headquarters. This happened at the Watergate complex in Washington, D.C. Little did we know at the time this would have far-reaching ramifications, not because it caused a president of the United States to resign, but here we are, like 40 years later, 50 years later, and every controversy has gate at the end. Deflate gate, bounty gate. It was the Watergate complex. It wasn't the Watergate. Knock it off, idiots.
Matt is upset. He has like some real feelings about, an establishment that people pay money to rent a room from.
It is stupid that they throw gate on every.
Yeah, it annoys the shit out of me.
I noticed you went ahead and used the Patriots, the Bounty Gate, and oh no, Bounty Gate was the Saints.
Yeah, there you go. Right. Nice try.
He led with Deflate Gate, though.
Right.
The most famous of the sports gates.
Right, which was all just bullshit anyway. Disproven by science, but whatever.
Yeah.
People don't care about science these days anyway.
It's just part of the TB12 method.
All right. Well, that's going to do it for this week's episode. We appreciate you guys coming to hang out with us, although we seriously doubt anyone has really stuck around to this point. Please be sure to like and subscribe and throw something in the comments. Let us know what you thought about this episode or many of the other videos that nobody is watching. We also have a site on the internet, stonedonsportspodcast.com, that nobody goes to, so please be sure and check that out.
People have been to it. We have like 175 visits and views and stuff.
But, all right. So, some of you have gone to. A lot of those, some of you is Kyle checking it, but, fuck it. They all count, right? So, yeah, until next time. We will talk to you later. Ramey, Kyle, do you want to say anything?
I just really appreciate the tens of you that have stumbled upon the site and the YouTube page and all of the platforms. Seriously, though, those of you that are listening and giving feedback, we really appreciate it. We're going to try to get better each week as we go along. We're enjoying it, and thanks for listening, watching, and subscribing.
Yeah, we have tens of subscribers now. We're past the 20 mark, so we can officially say tens.
Tens with the S.
All right.
Have a great week, everybody.
That'll do it. Until next time, we'll see you later.